This is our thermal fuse, and and here's the problem right here.
Hey guys, Jason here, Appliance Guy Online. Today I am going to be working on a GE dryer that has stopped heating. It starts, it runs, it tumbles. It just doesn't heat and it doesn't dry. It doesn't dry the clothes, and in my opinion that's a big problem. Anyways, it was a pretty simple fix, so I am going to show you what I had to do to fix it and get it back together. Like I said, it was a pretty simple fix, so follow along with me and maybe this will help you as well. Quick disclaimer, if you're not comfortable with electricity or mechanically inclined, please do not attempt to do this. We're talking about 220, 240 volts here. It can very easily kill you. It can and will kill you if you are not careful. Those of you who are comfortable doing it, I hope this will help you. It's a very easy fix, no parts involved, just your time. It took us about 20 minutes to do, so if this video can help one person, I am happy. Okay, just make sure to unplug your dryer before you take it apart or work on it in any way. Again, please unplug your dryer before you work on it, okay? Alright, so let's go downstairs and start fixing it.
So normally when I go out to a call, the first thing I'll do is I will unplug it and I'll check for power. We're looking for 240 volts. So on these two, if you touch your multimeter to these two, you'll find 240 volts. If you go from this one to this one, you'll have 110. And if you go from this one to this one, you'll have 110. Sometimes these dryers will get 110 volts, but they won't get the 220 volts required to heat up the heating element. So when I picked this dryer up, I did unplug it. I tested the receptacle. They were in fact getting 220 volts. I also tested it there. I started it. I did confirm that it is running. It's just not heating. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take off the top, and there's two screws. There's one here and one here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. One and two, and make sure and put those in a safe spot so you don't lose them. So now that we got those screws off, we can go ahead and take the top off. So what you're going to want to do is just pull it up and out, and over here you'll see some clips. So you want to go to the left and then just pull this off. You could see that those tabs go in here, and then you push it to the right. You can see how it has a little lip here. So take this off and go ahead and set it to the side. Okay, now that we have that off, we're gonna want to go ahead and take the front panel off. And to do that, there's two screws, one here and one here. I'm gonna go ahead and take those off. And I'm willing to bet that this is a simple issue. It normally is with these GE dryers. Probably a blown thermal fuse. Oh, I'm sorry, a blown heat element fuse, or a high limit. Or these GEs, they had a problem with the power source to the heat element, the connector going bad. So basically, the connector loosens up, and it causes the connection to arc, heat up, and eventually just break. So I'm willing to bet that it's one of those issues. On this one, it normally is. On this specific one, oh, by the way, the model number on this dryer is DRSR483EG7WW. But for the most part, all these GE dryers are the same. They all look the same on the inside. So for this particular one, you could see that there is the door switch right here. I usually just leave that on. So what I'll do is I'll just set this to the side like so. And then next, which this is probably the hardest part, is under here the belt is attached to an idle pulley, which is this right here. You're gonna want to push that over until it locks. And it's kind of hard to see now, but once I get this drum out, I'll show you how that works. So you're gonna want to unhook the belt, and we're gonna remove the drum. So this is kind of tricky, but it's not too bad. Got to kind of stretch this side out a little bit because the drum is a little bit bigger than the frame. But once you get that through, you can just pull it through and it just comes out. Go ahead and set that aside. And once you have the drum out, you can look and visually inspect. You don't even have to test anything, you just inspect everything. Oh, by the way this works is, this is the belt tensioner. So when the belt is on here, there's a spring down here, or I'm sorry, it's tensioned so that it's, without holding it, it just kind of goes that way. But when it's running, it's normally about right here. In order to get the belt off, you just have to push this over, and then you can lock it on here so that it doesn't go over, and then you just take the belt off of here, take it off the motor pulley, and you could take the belt off that way. And by the way, before doing any of this, please make sure to unplug the dryer. That's a very important part. Okay, so what I'm going to do is inspect, make sure all the wires are good, and so far they look good. And the problem I was telling you about is these wires here will break. The element looks good. Here's our high, I believe, no, the high limit thermostat is here. This is our thermal fuse. And oh, and here's the problem right here. You can see that there is a broken wire here, and that is the power to the heat element. And that is normally supposed to be connected there with a, oh, and here's the spade. Here's the spade connector right here, which is missing. You could see that that is supposed to normally be, that's normally supposed to be on there like so. But you can see that it just melted off. So that's what we're gonna have to do. We're just gonna have to cut this wire short, add a new spade connector, sand that down a little bit so it's a smooth surface, slip it on, tighten it with pliers, and that'll fix the problem. Okay, so I got my new spade connector. I was actually getting ready to put it on here, but I noticed if I cut this back about 3 inches, I will not have enough room there. And you guys will probably notice that too if you have this same issue. So what you got to do is just loosen this zip tie here a little bit. Once you got that loose, you could kind of pull more slack through. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and take that zip tie off altogether. And we may need even a little bit more slack here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull some through right here. And it looks like that will suffice. Just make sure you don't take this wire off here, because if you have it running through here, it could hit the drum while it's running. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that here, and strip the end, make sure that it's solid there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put that on there like so, and then I'm going to crimp it. And just make sure you make that nice and tight, because we don't want the same problem to happen. So just crimp that nice and tight. There we go. That's good. Oh, and then I'm gonna have to take some sandpaper and just sand that connector down there a little bit. Clean that connection off. If we don't clean this connection here, it may cause it to do the same thing again. and you could potentially be stuck doing it again. So I want to make sure that's good and clean. That's about good enough. So I'm going to run this back through here and put that zip tie back through. There we go, but tight is better. Okay, so now we got that fixed. We got enough slack here. Let me pull a little bit extra here. And there you go, it's fixed. Just for confirmation, just to confirm that it is fixed, we'll go ahead and take our multimeter here. And all I do is I put it on continuity, which is that circle with the lines to the right of it. Put it on continuity. See, if you put these together, it beeps. That means that it's a closed circuit. So put one end on your new connector, put the other on the other end of the heat element. Okay, high is good. How about low? Low is good, so we're good there. With our new connector on there, we can go ahead and put the drum back together, put the drum back in, put the front cover on, put the top cover on, and we're good to go. So let's go ahead and start doing that. I just grab my drum back. I usually hold it on the belt. The belt is strong enough to hold it. And what you're going to want to do is just make sure that you put this pin right here back into the bearing slot right there. It's kind of hard to do for somebody who doesn't normally do it, but you know, I do this pretty regularly, so I pretty much got it down. But you know, you could still do it. It may just take you an extra few minutes, no big deal. Okay, so we're gonna want to line that back up. You just gotta get it center, and you'll know that it's on there because this will kind of float on the back part. Okay, and then now we're gonna want to hook up the belt again. This is probably the hardest part for somebody who normally doesn't do this. Like I said, for me, I do this pretty regularly, but I'm gonna try and see if I could record that down there the best I could for you guys. So what I'm doing is I'm putting one part of the belt on the pulley on the motor, and then I'm putting the other part on this tensioner, and then we're gonna unlock the tensioner just by pushing it back a little bit and off the holder, and boom, there we go. The belt is installed. You could test it by doing this. You could spin the drum and make sure that the fan is spinning, which it is, and we're good there. Now we're just going to do all the steps in reverse. We're going to put the front cover back on. Just make sure you hook your switch back up if you disconnected it. In our case, my case, we did not. So that's good. Now when you're putting the front cover back on, you're going to want to make sure that these holes line up with this tab here, and there's one in the middle and one on the far left. So just make sure you line those up. By leaning the top back, it's a little bit easier to do. So I'm going to line those up, and they're lined up. And then putting this front cover on, you're just going to want to lift the drum a little bit. And what you're aiming to do here is have this lip here sit on top of the bearings here. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 bearings. So you just lift it up, make sure that goes under that lip, and then you're just going to want to make sure that these tabs here go into the holes here. So just push that in. I got the left side, now I just got to get the right side. There we go. We're all lined up. Now we're gonna go back to our 2 screws that we took off initially. We're gonna put one back in on this side. And we're gonna put one back in on this side. not too complicated. I mean, all you really have is 2 screws there and then 2 screws holding the top plate on. So that's going to be the last step for us, is taking the top plate. Now remember what I said about these holes here. You're going to want to have these holes line up with these tabs. It'll be to the left a little bit. Once you get those lined up, push them on, push to the right, and then that is lined up. Now this is kind of a little bit of a pain in the butt. You got to make sure that these here are underneath this lip, that side and then this side, and we do have it under that lip. So you're just going to want to push it down. And just try and line it up the best you could. Now you want to make sure to get these tabs in those holes. One here and one on this side, and then the same thing up here. There's a tab here that goes in the hole and a tab here that goes in the hole. And before you screw it down, just look it over, make sure everything is in place, which it is. So then you open this back up. We go back to our 2 screws. By the way, all 4 screws are Phillips head. Put that one back on, and put that one back on. Make sure that they're tight. And then you clean up. So that was a pretty easy repair. I mean, what did it take us 20 minutes to do that?
Drop any comments down below that you may have, or if you want to just let me know something, any advice, whatever it may be. Like I said, give this video a thumbs up at the very minimum. That way other people can find it to help them with their appliance issues, and specifically their dryer issue. Okay, guys? Thanks so much for watching, and you guys have a great rest of your day, okay? Thanks. Bye.